Ooga fucking Ooga cunts. It's Schmeckle. Welcome to the Cuntstream pre-show. Tonight I've got Reading Ren here.
Well, the pre-show. The pre-show.
Yeah,
we're not.
This is the pre-show.
The pre-show.
Yeah,
what?
The real show's later.
What's up with the pre-show?
You're the opener.
Who's the main course?
It was supposed to be Hagbard. He backed out. We got nobody. Do not watch the main show. It's going to be garbage.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Anyway, we got Reading Ren. You all know her. She reads books, has boobs. And we've got Rags.
Now, that's allegedly.
Allegedly. Allegedly to which part?
Well, I guess all of it, isn't it?
I mean, I know she certainly looks like she's reading.
Assume her gender.
We don't know if those are real boobs.
That's strange because in assuming her gender, I assumed her gender. It's a terrible rabbit hole to get caught in.
Yes, terrible. Though if you want proof of the boobs, just go to my Twitter. They're there.
There's basically nothing else there. You'll find them quickly.
Yeah.
but still very, very few pictures of Igor's.
Well, Igor doesn't like posting his boobs as much as I post my boobs.
I don't care what Igor likes.
Boobs. Don't like those. No, sir.
So anyway, Regs, obviously there's been a lot of shit in gaming lately.
Obviously.
Difficult.
Never changes.
Oh yeah, it's constant, but I mean I don't pay a whole lot of attention to
It flares up and dies down. There's always something going on. There's always some sort of controversy. There's got to be.
But what's this shit with the word gameplay? What the fuck is the problem with the word gameplay?
There's a games journalism website called Rock Paper Shotgun. Rock Paper Shotgun, has the articles about the games, yada yada, and out of the ordinary there. What's interesting though is that the senior editor of Rock Paper Shotgun, I'll try to remember his name while I'm talking here. I think it's something Brad Walker, I think. I'll amend that later if I need to. But basically what he said was, if you use the term, it's John Walker at Botherer. He said, anyone who ever uses the word gameplay needs to seriously consider their life choices. And that's a dumb thing to say, but doubly so because, again, you're the senior editor of Rock Paper Shotgun. And what's interesting, though, is I went to Rock Paper Shotgun, and the last, 15 or so reviews that they did, every single one that I checked, I stopped at 15. None of them have the word gameplay in it, and none of the last 8 articles that I checked, and I stopped after that, had the word gameplay in it either. The only time that this word pops up is in user comments. And I think it's very strange that because I think at that point, after 15 reviews and 8 articles about video games, not using the word gameplay, it's not a coincidence. I think that he implied that there was this understanding on the website in some other places, some other games journalist places, that you didn't use that word, that this word was cliched, that it was, I don't know. I think it's this stupid game journo, high and mighty. We don't use the word gameplay, but it's very strange. This is a word that's understood pretty well across pretty well across the gaming sphere here. And when you say gameplay to somebody, and even if you ask them to define it, you might get a lot of different specific definitions of it. But everyone knows what you're talking about when you say gameplay. When you talk about gameplay, everyone knows what you mean. And so it's strange that a word that's really ubiquitously understood by everyone would be avoided like that.
It seems really strange. So it isn't something where he's actually come out and stated his issue with the word.
Well, he says that I'll have to go. He deleted that tweet itself, but I made sure to screenshot it and everything, and let me see if I can find a direct line. I'd have to look around for it again because it's going back a wee bit. But I guess his point was that, at least the point he was trying to make was, if you ask a bunch of people what it means, there's not one specific set definition for it, even though there is. But if you ask a bunch of people, not everyone's going to give you the exact same response, which doesn't matter because everybody really knows what you're talking about when you say it. And because, like I said, it's understood by pretty much everybody close enough to what it is, that you should probably use it because it's a useful thing to say when you talk about the playing of the game. Everyone says constantly, all the time, graphics don't matter, it's the gameplay that matters. This doesn't matter, it's the gameplay that matters. And people understand what that means. And for a game journalist, and game journalists already don't, they're not exactly in the greatest graces of gamers before. They certainly aren't now and recently after all this Cuphead stuff comes out. So why they would take the stance that if you use the word, you should reevaluate your life, that seems, it's this needless nitpick at gamers. It's just one of these things that adds to the pile of game journalists aren't gamers. They don't consider themselves gamers. They're not part of gamers. They're this separate entity that looks down on us and demonizes us or labels us as things. And it's so strange because, I mean, we obviously have, in America especially, a problem with just media in general. And even when it comes to video games, something that shouldn't even be politicized at all, the same thing happens. People have this mistrust of games journalism.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem really strange that the people reporting on games and gamers, for the most part, seem to have little interest in games and complete disdain for gamers. The entire gaming journalist industry seems completely biased.
It is, but that ties into, that starts tying into stuff like Gamergate, and that's a whole big conversation in and of itself too.
Yeah, from what I understand, Zoe Quinn was involved. Harassment. There was a shitty game and some cheating somewhere, I think. That's about my understanding of Gamergate.
That's what he thinks about.
Gamergate was a movement that popped up because the movement is about ethics in games journalism. It did pop up because somebody decided that they would, cheat on someone, start sleeping around, and one of the people they slept around with would be doing articles about them and for them and reviews for their game, and the stuff wasn't disclosed. And then in order to defend herself, this became a misogyny issue and the social justice issue and how gamers are dead and stuff like that. It's all just one big mess. There are places to go and take a look for it, but Gamergate's rearing its head again because Gamergate is a boogeyman that games journalists and SJWs and the feminist types, they can always bring up Gamergate whenever they need a boogeyman. They could always drag it out of the closet. They can always say it was Gamergate. Gamergate elected Trump. Gamergate is alt-right. Gamergate such and such Nazis from space. It doesn't matter what it needs to be. Gamergate's always going to be there for them to drag out if they need a bad guy. Gamergate was actually investigated by the FBI as well because that's how serious they took this fucking hashtag.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
No, yeah, they got the FBI involved. The FBI didn't find anything wrong with Gamergate. But that wasn't enough to, shut it up. They need a bad guy. You need a bad guy.
I mean, I don't think they need any more bad guys, but man, do they fucking want them.
Well, yeah, because there always has to be a boogeyman, so it's not their fault.
There has to be a victim, and they have to be that victim.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's what seems really weird to me. So this actually did the whole Gamergate thing actually sprung out of one chick's issues on the
Kind
internet.
of. It wasn't just that. Gamergate, especially in the early days, was a very difficult to pin down and harder to define thing. It kind of served its purpose. I would say that Gamergate, for the most part, won. It just sort of kind of became ingrained with the general gamer mentality because there is this us and them mentality that goes on in the gamosphere where it's gamers versus games journalists. We see this all the time from people who develop games and from presenters and from the SJWs and things like that. You get people like what's his face? Cool Ghosts guy. Man, I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head. What Matt Lees is a good example. It's an attempt to it demonizes gamers is what it does. Gamers are dead. The identity of being a gamer is bad. You shouldn't be a gamer. You shouldn't label yourself one. They're misogynist. They're sexist. They're da 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 da. It's all part of what I think it's just all part of the. We have to have a victim. That victim has to be us or somebody else, and it's easy to have a boogeyman you could point to whenever you need one. And Gamergate became that.
Okay, so essentially, the whole fuck, what's her name? I said it a minute ago.
Zoe Quinn?
The whole Zoe Quinn thing. It was just part of it. It like the straw that broke the camel's back type thing. Kind of opened the floodgates.
Well, I don't know if there was really any floodgate moment. Probably the Gamers Are Dead articles would be that point. That was really one of those. That was probably the moment when people that crossed the line for a lot of people. And even back then, Gamergate wasn't quite as solidified in what it was as it is now. But that was probably the moment for a lot of people. And it still goes on today. Cuphead has been, so far it's an excellent game. It's been selling really. It's sold over 300,000 copies on Steam alone, which is really, really good because it's a good game and it looks great and it plays great. But we talk, and that's what the video I'm actually working on right now is. There's been a couple things going on about the game regards the Dean Takahashi gameplay that came out before Cuphead was released, the tutorial, and should video game journalists be good at video games? Video game reviewers be good at video games? And of course they fucking should. It's retarded that people in the games journalism and didn't think that was you should. It's just idiotic. The debate, I say debate, the manufactured debate that a lot of people in games journalism are talking about now is the idea that if a game's difficulty ruins its inclusiveness. What are we owed when we buy a game? Are games being too difficult? Or is games being too difficult bad? Ben Kuchera wrote an article on the 4th of October from Polygon. When is exclusion a valid design choice? The difference between what you earn and what you're owed. It starts its own discussion. I mean, these people are. They don't. There's a reason that walking simulator games, right, artsy fartsy sort of type games, where there's nothing wrong with them, but there's a reason they're so immensely popular and propped up by games journalism because they're immensely easy. Everything is the Dark Souls of something. Cuphead is the Dark Souls of platformers. Difficulty in games is not something that gaming journalism, especially recently, looks upon fondly. They think that, at least a lot of them do, that difficulty modes or just difficult games in general that don't hold your hand, that aren't easy, are bad because they don't allow you to have access to everything. They actually have things you have to earn, you have to work for stuff in these games. And they don't like that. A lot of them feel like games shouldn't be inclusive. Nothing should be totally inclusive. Nothing should ever aim for total inclusivity because, one, it's not possible. And two, if it was possible, then it would take something that had... I mean, everything is niche to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing appeals to everybody, and video games are the exact same way. And something that does appeal to people about video games is their sense of challenge and the victorious self-esteem you get from overcoming challenges and obstacles.
I mean, you could apply their argument to basically any field, and it's equally ridiculous.
And
I mean,
they apply it to things like movies. They apply it to passive media too, and that's silly because games, their nature is that they are interactive, and as such, when you buy a game, you're not owed the ending. Like when you, and it's strange to think about when you stop and think about it, but it's not like a movie where anybody can, just buy the movie. The only entrance fee to getting into movies is just having a screen to watch it on and the movie itself. But when it comes to games, I mean, it's the kind of media that you buy, and it restricts you from until you buy, say, you're worthy.
A Rubik's Cube.
It's like a Rubik's Cube. Yeah, if there was a button on the Rubik's Cube,
should it just assemble itself if you're not good enough to do it?
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Yeah. Games lock away content from you by design until you prove that you're worthy enough to access the rest. And that level of proof is determined by each individual game's designers. And ultimately, that's my big shtick in all of this thing, is that people should have, like, to answer the question, when is exclusion a valid design choice? It's like, it's always a valid design choice. Because
it's not exclusion. It's not fucking exclusion. It's more, you get rewarded if you accomplish something.
Exclusion's the more appropriate word, I think. Because when you buy a game, everything that the game has is on that disc. And so you have the ability to access it. I mean, it's yours. You can have it in your hand. If you buy a game, even digitally, you have access to the game, but you are being excluded. You're being restricted from the things that you haven't reached yet. Once you buy the game, you're excluded from level 2 until you prove that you are worthy of it.
And that's not a bad thing either.
No, it's how games should. Basically, they want fucking participation ribbons.
Yeah, they want participation trophies for I bought the game. Give me the outcome I want.
I'm assuming you're talking about Cuphead.
Well, we're talking about it. It can be. Cuphead has been the game that has sort of propelled that. I say propelled. This is an artificial sort of, thing that gaming journo types will do. The Ben Kucheras of the world, God bless them. The idea is the difference between what you earn and what you're owed. When you buy a video game, what are you owed from that video game? Video games don't even owe you an experience. Like, you get what you get, and it's your job as a consumer to decide if you think whether or not this will get you something that you'll find worth it. A video game doesn't owe you an experience because those are far too floaty. They're too nebulous. What an experience is, what your kind of experience is, they owe you what they advertise, right? And they advertise a series of mechanics. They advertise you a set of graphics. But an experience, those are too nebulous to pin down.
You're making me say that.
To say that I don't. Now you could refund a game, and it's a valid thing to want to refund a game because it didn't provide you the experience you wanted. That's fine.
Let's be honest. Right? I think most people did that with DayZ.
Well, I guess it depends on the game. I mean, if you're talking something like, what was it? That one that went through space that everyone got pissed off at because it was just repetitive.
No Man's Sky.
Yeah, No Man's Sky. That could be a valid argument with theirs, like what's owed if you pay full price for a game.
Well, yeah, that game just blatantly falsely advertised. The people who made that game, they just flat out lied about what would be in the game. And that has nothing to do with the experience. Yeah, that's just like, these are things that we said would be in the game, and you gave us money, and what we gave you didn't have the things that we said would be in the game. And it's okay to refund a game if it doesn't give the experience you want. That's fine. That's up to you. But that doesn't mean that you're owed a certain experience. Now, games will try to sell you an experience. They'll try to sell you the idea of the experience that you'll have. But again, you can't go to someone and say, well, this game should be this game's experiences are too, like I said, they're too nebulous to pin down.
Even especially with something like this, where the issue is it was too fucking hard.
And Cuphead isn't even.
Not
I mean, I've
everything.
only played it about an hour or so because I'm trying to get through like Divinity Original Sin 2, especially. And all the other player games.
I'm playing it right now. It's very hard.
Cuphead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and here's the thing about what's really good about Cuphead is like obviously difficulty subjective, and it's taken me a dozen tries to beat a boss, but it's hard, and I'm not particularly good at it either. I'm not good at Cuphead.
I don't think anyone's good at Cuphead. I think you just get a little better each time.
You do, and that's what's so great about it. These are short levels. It's a boss rush game for the most part.
Yeah, it is.
You
There's a
beat
couple
bunch of
running gun
bosses.
levels.
Yeah, but it's not. It's the thing. It's fair and it's not punishing. It's not like you're walking down a hallway and all of a sudden a trap springs out from the floor and you have no idea and there's no way to tell and it's unavoidable. And then next time you just have to remember that one little spot you can't walk on. That's not difficulty. That's just random punishment. And Cuphead isn't like that. Cuphead is difficulty. It's like an arcade game. The ones that are designed to be difficult because they need the quarters from you, but at the same time, they don't just magically kill you for no reason. Cuphead is difficult in the sense that it's just difficult to the coordination of avoiding the things and dodging the things and moving around and hitting the boss. But it's fair. And once you die, it's seconds and you're back into it. And it's not like it takes away anything from you when you die. You don't lose anything. All it does is you died, but that's okay because this time you'll do better, and the next time you'll do even better. And because every time you die, it shows you the progress. This is how close you came to beating the boss this time. You die, you start over, you try again, you get closer and closer and closer. And
literally, the level I'm playing right now is the airplane level. We have to fight the bitch on the bicycle, and it gives you like
she turns into the moon.
What? No, she turns into like a bull cloud and like twins dancing.
Yeah. That was a tough fight. Yeah, that was the first airplane level. Yeah.
And it gives you the little flags at the end when you die to show your progress, like how many levels of or how many different transformations you beat.
Yeah, exactly. The little axe of the boss. Yeah, and it's when I normally when I play single player games, I tend to shut up and be quiet and focus. Make snarky remarks to myself every once in a while, but I'm not a very jubilant, outgoing player when it comes to single player games. That's me time. I like to kind of focus and I'm quiet and reserved. But yeah, Cuphead is one of those games.
You're not some drunk Irish guy with green hair.
No. But when it comes to Cuphead, I didn't even think about it. But when I beat a boss, I mean, like I would be happy. I would say, like I would just say hooray, and I would smile, and I'd be, my eyebrows would unfurrow, and I would loosen up a bit, and I'd be like, yeah, I feel really good about myself. I would openly exclaim my joy at overcoming this challenge, and that's not something that a lot of games have, especially nowadays. I mean, nowadays I have to play multiplayer games to get a challenge. Not to toot my own horn, but a lot of games nowadays, especially single player games, are quite easy. But it's good that Cuphead is around to have this challenge for people to overcome, and it doesn't punish you if you don't succeed. It just, it's one of those try again sort of games, and you do it over and over, and you beat it, and you feel good because you finally beat it.
Yeah, it should be reinforced repeatedly. Being challenged is not a bad thing.
You never get better if you're never challenged.
Well, that's the point. They don't want to get better.
No, they want to stay exactly as they are, and they want everything else to change around them.
Well, they just don't. That's the thing. They talk about exclusion, inclusion. It's ultimately that's what they want. They want inclusion. They want everyone to be able to play the game. Every game should have a super easy mode. Every game should, like Assassin's Creed Origins, that's coming out. Takes place in Egypt. It actually looks pretty nifty. It looks like a pretty nifty game, right? I'm definitely not sold because it's Assassin's Creed. It's probably going to be more of the same shit. But it has a mode where there's no combat in it. You walk around and it teaches you Egypt stuff. And actually, I think that's actually kind of nifty. I mean, I just finished a 48 series course on the Great Courses Plus about Egypt. Egypt is cool as shit. Egypt's fascinating. The culture and the history of Egypt spans such a huge time, and they had so many different ways of doing things. I totally support the idea that there's a no combat mode that you just learn about Egypt in. I think especially games are a great way to teach people stuff like that. But it doesn't unlock stuff for you, right? It's just you learning about Egypt, and that's fine with me, right? But people really want these. People want legitimately.
It's not the game minus challenge. It's a separate educational mode.
It's a museum basically. And I wonder I haven't looked into it specifically, and I wonder to what degree it teaches you or how educational it actually is. And if it is, the more power to them if it really does teach people a lot about ancient Egypt and ancient history, and and their culture and religion and stuff like that. But
see, it wouldn't even really bother me.
There's a lot of people out there who want there needs to be easy modes to everything. And easy modes can't just be easy. They have to be easy, and you have to unlock stuff. It's like, how come I have to beat the game to get a Chicago typewriter with unlimited ammunition? How come I have to beat the game?
It wouldn't even piss me off if they were to put out this Assassin's Creed game.
Even Cuphead releases with an easy version. Once you go to a stage, it says regular or simple or easy mode.
Exactly, and that's not a fucking issue. You can choose the easy mode, or you can choose the fucking regular mode.
Yeah, it's the idea that you shouldn't be denied any rewards by beating and playing the game on its easiest difficulty.
See, I don't
it excludes people from the experience if you tell people that, oh well, you have a mode or a story, or you can't even progress in the story until you beat it at a certain difficulty. That's exclusionary to people. I mean, there was even an article that was written that verbatim the title was "Gamers Need to Stop Fetishizing Skill." Like
I saw that article.
These jokes write themselves.
Isn't the whole point of video games to get skilled at it and get better? And
isn't the point of anything you fucking do to get better at it?
Apparently not anymore.
The idea that people find satisfaction and joy because they become better and they overcome obstacles to them, I guess, is completely foreign. Even if you play, I know when I was young and I was playing on the Xbox, there was Unreal Tournament, I think 2 or 3 that I played.
Yeah. Unreal Tournament 3 was the best game ever.
And there was a challenge for getting a certain amount of monster kills. And so I would put it on the smallest map possible, and everyone would die in like one shot, and I would put it to bots, and I would see how many monster kills I could get. And that's what the challenge became. The challenge didn't become, can I beat these stupid robots in the game? That wasn't challenging at all. I had to manufacture my own challenge by saying, how many monster kills can I get? Which is like a streak, like double kill, triple, quad, quinta, mega, super, and then monster kill was the final streak. If you killed, it's the Kilimanjaro of Halo or whatever. And I'd have to come up with these challenges to keep me going forward. Not just, can you kill the enemy? It's like, well, that's easy because they're stupid robots, and the weapons do an insane amount of damage. People will come up with their own challenges if you don't give them one anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and these people are the opposite. They want no challenge of their own creation or anybody else's.
Well, they want games that are so easy, like a toddler can play them and win. But the problem is those games don't sell very well because who really wants to play a game so easy that you could sleep and play it?
These people are the people who you can guarantee.
There's such a small minority of
loaded up with fucking.
They are a minority. They just are the ones who are writing gaming journalism articles.
Yeah, they're the very, very loud minority.
They're very loud.
They're a small minority of the people who actually purchase anything. Like these people don't go to GameStop or to EA or fucking whoever sells games. Like, I want Assassin's Creed. These people will just get it on beta and play it and then review it and then go, it sucks.
Yeah.
It was violent. I saw too much boob, and I couldn't get past level 1.
Yeah, they want to. These are the people who want politics in video games, but only if it's their politics. Important to note.
But what's funny is that no one even likes their politics.
No one likes their fucking politics. Hell no. These. I mean, you have to water down these progressive inclusion, social justice messages so much in games to have it be, you know, an acceptable game by that, you know, by that virtue, that it might as well don't even fucking bother. I mean, look at Marvel, look at DC Comics. I mean, look at how they're just going down the shitter. You know, Zap has the biggest share of the comic book market right now. Zap, who is, I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, who the fuck is Zap?
Zip or Zap or something. It's not Marvel or DC. That's the point. Like, you gotta, when you have, some games have really good messages in them and really good stories, and a lot of the times they can't see the forest for the trees, and they can't. Okay, so Anita Sarkeesian, when she had her tropes for something women video games, something. She just needs to rename her show "Fuck You and Everything You Like." But
yeah.
When she talked about BioShock Infinite, which admittedly was a crap game, but it had a great story, she said that BioShock Infinite was a garbage story about the how oppressed people are as bad as the oppressor. And that's what she took away from BioShock Infinite. That's it. That's all she took away from BioShock Infinite story. Was that, they're just trying to tell us that if you're oppressed, you're as bad as the person oppressing you. It's like, no, but that's what she took away from this whole game. The message is completely lost on these people. They everything that they look at is through a lens. Everything that they look at is through the lens of feminism, social justice, inclusion, diversity. They can't see anything for what it is. And when they look at gaming, the lenses don't go away.
Well, these are the same people who complained that the Witcher franchise was racist because there were very few black people. It's like,
I saw an article that said Cuphead was racist because it was an old-timey cartoon.
Yep, the 1930s. People were racist in the 1930s. Yeah, the Depression era cinema, you know, cartoon cinema aesthetic is gorgeous. And that reminded somebody that, this took place in the 1930s. Hey, a lot of people were racist in the 1930s, so that means this game's bad because it's racist.
No, it's like a fucking skit the Whitest Kids You Know did. I forget what it was about. It was some fucking Western thing. Nothing to do with slavery, and at the end, they just say, and we'd like to remind you, this entire skit happened during a time when slavery was legal. And that's exactly the fucking reaction here.
Wait, that's how you end that's not how you end a comedy skit.
I don't know. It worked well for them. It bummed everybody out, but
well, that's probably the point they were trying to do.
Exactly, it was the goal.
It was like, it's like a movie about the Crusades. But there were slaves. Like, a movie about the Civil War. There were slaves. Fucking Revolutionary War. There were slaves. It's like it's always good. Look, slavery is awful, terrible, horrible, blah, blah, blah. Everyone knows that. But it's weird how it tries to get shoehorned into everything that happens. It's like, well, we got to talk about slaves. We got to talk about how the slaves felt during this time. We have to talk about how bad slavery is. I mean, you have Bethesda coming out, and they've got Wolfenstein, The New Order, and they're like, and gaming journalists are saying, fuck, Bethesda's doubling down on their anti-Nazi stance. It's like they've been making games about killing Nazis for 20 years now, and you'd say they don't have to double down. How do you double down on your stance that how Nazis are bad? It's like, wow, that's such a brave, noble position to take. Fucking out of left field. You caught me surprised with that left hook from nowhere. That Nazis are bad. Thanks. I didn't guess that from all of the games that you made about killing Nazis.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't there like a million fighting games about World War II about killing Nazis?
Well, no, Wolfenstein was all about killing.
Not Call of Duty World War II. It's not about killing Nazis. You can't talk. You can't say Nazi. Look at the multiplayer. There's a multiplayer map. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's called Aachen, I think. And it takes place in Germany, bombed out Germany. And sure enough, there's iron crosses on the building, no swastikas. And the characters in the game, they don't even say Nazis. You're fighting in Germany in World War II, and like, the Axis. It's like,
Oh, right. Yeah, you weren't fighting Nazis. You were
You were
fighting
fighting
the
the-
Axis. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Nazis too triggering. It might remind somebody
Nazis
of
is too
Trump.
fucking triggering. The Germans don't even sound German. And and look, it's just weird because the actual gameplay itself was actually pretty good. The beta was actually pretty good. I had fun with it. And for a Call of Duty game, I liked it. But it was like, why are you being so soft and prissy about history? He's like, why? He's like, we're not going to put you go out of your way to not put swastikas in the game. You go out of your way to not say the word Nazi. I don't even know if they say Germans. It's like,
I can see maybe leaving the swastikas out of fear
You're
of
so
fucking
Canadian.
leftists
Disgusting.
having a poor reaction to it.
fuck
It's
them.
dumb, but I can see that.
Or could they have wanted the in on the German market, and that's why they left the swastikas out?
Yeah,
Because
I think it impacts
I'm
their.
sorry, the German market is not big enough to matter.
It is.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think that was the primary reason that they did it, was because there are places where having a swastika, it brings up sales issues, which is retarded, of course.
I thought that was only Germany.
It might be, but I think
And
there might be
California.
other places. Yeah, that's fucking shit.
Tommy,
But it's only okay if you have HIV though.
Oh yeah,
Now, when it
that's
comes-
a disgusting news.
When it comes to stuff like that, I mean, odd as it was, the word fascist was while playing Call of Duty 2 when I was very young. And I asked my daddy, I said, "Dad, what are fascists?" It must be a very odd question for someone my age to just randomly walk up to your parent and ask, "Daddy, what's fascism?" It's like, "Daddy, what is seizing the means of production?" But you go up to him and he told me, "Oh, where'd you hear it?" And he was curious. It's like, "Well, I'm playing this World War II game and I'm playing as the Russians and we're fighting against Nazis and they call them fascists." And it's like instantly I was associating Nazis, fascists, bad, fucking bad things. They're both bad. And so Call of Duty can be used as a way to, teach people about stuff like that. And it instantly can introduce you to this stuff. But to not have it is like, what if, like, if you're, the thing is that Call of Duty hasn't had a World War II game since it's probably almost been 10 years. So for a lot of people, for a lot of young people who play a lot of video games, this will be their first big media foray into World War II. World War II isn't as big of a venue as it used to be. Everything goes in cycles. And so I think they're really doing history a disservice. And they said they want to be as authentic as possible to give people an experience that they'll remember, to kind of teach them about this point in time and to explain what it was like. And that's fine if you want to do that. That's absolutely fine. And I think video games are a great way to do that.
Being authentic is great, but you can't be authentic and also say, but we're not going to show this or say this.
Actually, I got corrected by my husband Igor. Apparently, there's a number of countries in Europe where the swastika is outright illegal.
Yeah.
So they
Because
could have
Germans don't have free speech.
Well, not just Germany, several other countries too.
UK.
Probably, he just said several other countries. So they probably wanted the European market, and in order to get it, they couldn't have the swastika there because marketing and problems.
And I think it's in the single player. I think the single player has swastikas in it. The multiplayer doesn't. Because when someone gets put on the Nazi team, if that bothers you that a multiplayer game puts you on the Nazi team in a World War II game, you can go fuck yourself, quite frankly. And you can go find a different hobby because maybe you're just a bit too fragile and you're not cut out.
If it's two teams and it's a historical thing, you're going to be on the bad guy's side at some point.
It's like, guess what? It's like the communists were way worse than the Nazis, but you have no problem playing as a Russian in World War II, do you? No, of course not. I wonder how Nazi Zombie still has its name, as far as I know. Let me look it up.
Wait, same fucking company. They already put out. I forgot about fucking Nazi Zombies. It's got fucking Nazi in the name.
Yeah, it's Nazi Zombies. Yeah. But even then, it's got zombies in the name, so it's like Nazi zombies. We're instantly going with how they're evil. You can't portray Nazis just as like a neutral sort of thing, like in a multiplayer. One side's the Americans, one side's the Nazis, one side's the British, one side's the Nazis. You can't do that. You have to have it instantly next to something that's negatively, that has negative connotation. Like you really have to go all the way with it. You can't just say, yeah, one side was Nazis and one side is like, has it ever occurred to you that maybe, most Germans weren't even Nazis? So maybe you could just have one side be this and one side be that, and you don't have to teach people that. I mean, we get it. They were Germans, they were the bad guys, and just.
Germany did some fucked up shit for a certain time, and
they didn't stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
something. Ends of the horseshoes. Something.
Or as Family Guy joked, no, everyone went on vacation during that time period.
It's strange though. We have this really strange ability to gloss over, the evils that the communism did during that time period, and
Isn't it funny how everyone just forgets about that?
It's because they were on our side. They were our allies because we shared a common enemy, and
the fucking communists
that doesn't make them not shitty people.
Their way from Stalingrad to Berlin.
I mean, the communists were no good, man. They're worse than the Nazis. But
in most places, they were literally worse than the Nazis.
Oh yeah, absolutely they were. Absolutely they were.
It's a fairly common argument that Stalin was a much worse guy than Hitler.
He did kill more people.
Wasn't even close.
They were both gigantic pieces of shit.
No, they were terrible people. And the Russian army and the way that they treated the Russian people.
There a lot that Stalin was arguably worse.
I would say Stalin was definitely
worse.
Stalin's worse. The only argument I've ever heard as to why Hitler is labeled as worse than Stalin is that the mechanics that the Nazis came up with for death, basically almost making it industrial for killing, is what was the difference.
Now, the way when you look at I think, as far as I know, I heard this. I don't know if it's true, but I think we only have one recording of Hitler speaking when it wasn't an actual speech, like one of those hot mic sort of things. We only have one recording of Hitler just sitting around having a chit chat with his buddies. And in this conversation, the topic
was there any locker room talk?
Oh, I don't know. Probably. I mean, men are men. But when it comes to this conversation that we have, what's very interesting is that the conversation came around to talking about Stalin and the communists and their ability to produce tanks and to produce trains and to produce weapons and guns and soldiers, and how they could just throw soldiers forward, and how they absolute complete total wanton disregard for human life that Stalin had, to a degree that's it's practically unfathomable. And the thing is that Hitler looked upon that, and it was awful to Hitler. Hitler said himself, I could never push a good German to do that. I could never do that to a German like that. That's insane.
It's pretty fucking bad.
It's so strange that Hitler, because Hitler, he had his own code of ethics that he followed. He was a terrible person, but he had his own code of ethics that he followed. He couldn't do the things that Stalin did. He couldn't do the things that Stalin did. See, Hitler hears about that and he says, there's no way I could push my people to just dying in a factory because they get overworked. I could never just send wave after wave of men to machine gun fire and shoot them if they turn around because it's hopeless. I couldn't do that. That's monstrous.
Did do some of that, though.
Sure, yeah, he got fucking nuts and crazy at the end, but there was Hitler had this sense of I wouldn't do that to a good German. I wouldn't do that.
I think the difference
that Stalin didn't have.
Hitler pretended he had a fucking moral code. Stalin didn't even pretend. Stalin knew he was a fucking monster, and he was like, yeah, I'm just gonna roll with it.
I don't even know if he saw himself as a monster. I don't know. I don't think people really
He
do.
at least knew everybody saw him as a monster and didn't give a fuck.
Well, it was about the system. It was about keeping the system together.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, I mean, people. If you're gonna be a dictator, you better be a fucking monster.
You do everything with a bayonet except sit on it.
Yeah. Well, you can't exactly be a benevolent dictator. Sometimes you have to do shit you never thought you'd do.
I mean, you have to. I mean, when you're trying to hold power through violence, you have to constantly one up yourself and be consistent. And there's no room for deviation from that, because the moment that you allow the tiniest little bit of either dissent or opposition, then I mean, people see that as a sign of weakness, and then they'll use that to try to get over you, and you can't allow it, not even the tiniest bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess, like you said, you have to keep one-upping yourself, because no matter what you do, eventually people are going to get to the point where it's, well, the worst he's going to do is, and then you got to prove otherwise. You basically have to go from sick fuck to sicker fuck because you put yourself on that path.
Yeah, and in one way, Stalin was just more honest than everyone else. He just started off as the sickest fuck and went, try me.
Well,
No,
a lot of Hitler's stuff.
So far. You got to say so far. Somebody worse is coming.
A lot of Hitler's stuff that he did can be traced back to cleanliness. He saw the Jews and the fucking gypsies as like rodents and rats, and that's why he used to call the death camps cleaning stations and shit like that. Like,
I think that was just because death camp wouldn't play so well with
he also had all the factories in Germany cleaned. Like when he took over, he made them go in and scrub the factories, clean them from top to bottom.
He was a fucking mass level germaphobe.
Yes.
thought that the Jews and the gypsies were going to get him filthy.
No, he just thought they were like disgusting creatures. So he thought like they were just gross.
Yeah, and on that note, I have to go because I have to set up my stream in a little bit. So I'll may see you later, Schmeckle.
All right, Ren, before you leave, can you do me a favor?
What's that?
Send the link to that one guy, the trucker.
Oh, Magnus?
That's the one.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm about to skedaddle as well.
All right. Nice meeting you, Rags. Later.
Mm-hmm. See ya.
Yeah.
So with everyone leaving, we'll probably shut this down pretty soon. There was one more thing about the whole gaming thing that I still don't really get.
How to play games, how to win games.
Yeah, both of those.
How to get good.
Terrible at every game. The whole situation with PewDiePie, with Firewatch, and them retroactively taking away his permission to stream the game. Has that been hitting anyone else, or
what? Like specifically Campo Santo themselves? As far as I know, he's the only one.
Okay, so it's specifically if you're big and say something that they don't like.
Yeah, and I guarantee you their fucking sales have just plummeted since that happened.
They were kind of out of the public light anyway. I think they had gotten pretty much everything that they could get from PewDiePie. I think this was one big loud, hey guys, look at how good I am. And at the same time, it was maybe I can get one last bit of the spotlight on Firewatch, Firewatch. I don't know, but it's a fuck the guy who did that, because if anything else, what he did was he put, okay, so when it comes to streaming and the legality of the streaming and the copyright and the DMCAs and all that, it's kind of a gray area, right? There's no real precedent of sorts, right? It went both ways whether or not what Campo Santo did was legal or not. So that's why PewDiePie pulled his video down, because he didn't want to. I mean, what if PewDiePie doesn't take his video down, takes him to court over it. And what if the ruling is that a developer can do that? What if a developer can say, you know, I don't like your face, so you don't get to stream any of my games, and I'm going to DMCA the stream that you did a year ago of our game. What if you write a bad review of the game and they say, you know what, you said XYZ on social media, you know, this amount of time ago, so you have to take down your video. Man, I want you to it would give developers the ability to just destroy channels, and that's something that PewDiePie wanted to avoid. And the fact that Campo Santo would make that decision to potentially just catastrophically alter the landscape of the relationship between streamers and the developers of these games, just so that they could say, "Nyeh, that's fucking ridiculous," and fuck Campo Santo for doing that.
All right, Mental Gin, I'm gonna hop out of here. Rags, I think I might get the balls to play PUBG soon. I'll message you if I do.
Why is there not?
Oh, I just raged really hard like a month ago and haven't picked it back up since.
Alrighty, well, I'll be around.
All right, I'll talk to you guys.
All right, and at this point, we'll wrap it up. Sinatra, Regs, whoever the fuck else was here, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you bet.
And anybody watching, fuck off.